right, you little bastards. Aaron Draplin here, and this is Pentool Pals, and we are live, sort of. We are as virtual gets, and I'm not your host. I'm the talent they brought on today. Aaron James Draplin, 47 years old. These guys will put fucking anything on this podcast. And hello from steaming hot dog breath heat, Portland, Oregon. And your two hosts, here they go. Introduce yourselves, fellas.
And I'm Cam from Canvas Design Company.
And I'm Cole from CoOp Design, and thank you for joining us.
Amazing. That was the best. That was the best intro.
That's how it's done.
That's 414. You know, every now and again you hit it on the 414. We've been here for 5 hours, you guys.
Yeah.
Intro.
Listen, I think that if we have you on the podcast, I think we can just end it here, Cam, episode 16, and then no more after this, and we're good. We're happy.
Yeah.
You guys keep talking. I got nothing I hate more in life than crooked horizons.
All good.
I hate that shit, and I got to get my little lines in the back all straightened up.
There you go. We had a background all geared up for you, and then I was just like, he's got his records. That's his thing.
Newport Beach style, you know what I'm saying? Like real straight horizon, you know what I mean? You know.
Hey.
All right.
You're welcome anytime, Aaron. You can come down. We'll take you to the beach. We'll do all the thing. Maybe we'll get you some Botox later. We'll make you look all perked up and everything.
Look a miracle, Cole.
We'll take 20 years off of you. It's no way.
Up to speed. Well, about pre-pandemic, maybe 3 years ago, I spoke somewhere. It might have been Newport Beach, to like AIGA, Orange County, right? And all jokes aside, had a great show. A lot of kids showed up, but they had us in Newport Beach, and we went. We were carless, and down there you got to have a set of wheels, But we went up the coast. What's the next town up? Costa Mesa.
That's where I am.
Okay. Well, we went there to a couple kind of old Polynesian tiki kind of outfits, these classic things that are, you just don't know if they're even open, but until you kind of going through the door, then there's food and drinks and the stuff. But anyway, that's the last time we were down there, at least up in that neck of the woods. I used to live a little south of you in Laguna Niguel.
Nice.
What's that, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that?
Yep.
Back before you guys were even on the planet. I don't know how old you guys are, but this would have been 2000. I lived down there.
Yeah, I was born. I'm 28. I think
little Cam Warner, just so cute and
and I was 5 years old. I was 5 years old when you were down there. Right. So I was there, and I was doing things in this life, but probably not as cool as the things that you were doing.
Maybe me and you were sitting in traffic together at some point.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
You look at me.
I hope so. I'd like to think.
So you guys are graphic artists down there on the beach, or at least up in Bakersfield.
Yeah, I'm in Satan's butthole, but
yes. Okay. Now, do you guys have regular old stiff jobs? We're 9 to 5ers, or are you just all freelance?
I'm all freelance. Cole's all freelance. I quit my job maybe 6 months before the pandemic. I took your book into consideration. I did the marketing job for a big supplement company based out of Billings, Montana. And I rode that ship until I was not, until I couldn't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I left with a plan. They hired me on as independent contract designer. And I just kind of, stepped away and did, brand jobs and logos and all that shit. So it's been good.
But you didn't quite just take this job and shove it and just jump into the good, because that's a little misleading,
Oh yeah, you can't just. One thing I've learned, and I have friends that have gone through this as well, to where it's like they want to do something, whether it be design or not, and they don't have a plan, and they have to go back to having a day job. And I've always been kind of like a sink or swim guy. Like, I've been able to turn art into money since I was a kid, walking around with little pieces of paper or cardboard and coming back with $10. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try my hardest not to fail. And I've failed a few times. I've fallen on my ass, but every single time, like, I get hungry and, a bill needs to be paid, it just so happens to be paid. And this last year has been really good to me, despite all the, all the shit going on in the world.
Sure.
But
Well, good to hear. I mean, guys, there's no formula for any of this stuff.
no. Cole has a very similar story as well too.
However you do it, it's just as long as you do it with a couple little parachutes, you'll be okay.
Very much.
Absolutely.
Pick that thing back up. How much water are you consuming a day?
I have.
You desert mule. Look at this.
I know, right? Yeah, it's a.
Me in this backyard. I don't need to get into details, but I'll just say this much: good, strong stream.
Oh, a very strong stream. Actually, I got a job with a big comedian based off of a story like this. Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, they had a bit on their podcast last year, and I had already been working with Tom, but because Bert Kreischer was drinking Kool-Aid out of one of these, Tom Segura hit me up and was like, I don't know if you've watched this podcast yet, but I got a job for you. And then that turned into 11 more designs for him last year. So
that's cool. So you've worked. Okay. So cool. So I watch a little bit of that. I cycle in and out.
Yeah.
I can only take so much sometimes.
Yeah. Well, especially you're a Mark Maron. You're friends with Mark Maron, which I'm a huge comedy fan.
I mean, these guys, I don't even know if I'd say, I'm sure. I mean, he'll acknowledge me.
Yeah.
For that. And I know these guys are down to earth for the most part, but well, good for you. That's awesome. I mean, I have to say, I like what Kreischer is about.
Yeah.
I like his spirit. I like his laugh and the, and I don't even know if I've ever even heard his jokes, but he's an entertaining, fun loving.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's cool.
He's super fun.
But was he good to work with?
It was mainly through Tom. So I can't say that I did some stuff for
But you talked to Tom, like
I talked and emailed, mainly emailed with Tom. So basically it funneled through his podcast, Your Mom's House.
Yeah.
And so because Dr. Drew works with him, I got to do a shirt for Dr. Drew Pinsky. I got to do a lot of stuff for Your Mom's House as a whole.
Did they pay good?
Oh yeah, they paid me what I wanted. I mean, I wasn't gonna. I played smart, and this is how I worked with him for a year. I charged at least my minimum, which wasn't too much. Yeah. I charged him what I would charge a friend, which is like maybe $200 for a t-shirt design. Then $200 turned into a $300 illustration job, and so on and so forth.
You can charge those fuckers a little more, man.
Oh yeah, I definitely could.
Not like it's your buddy. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
But hey, remember, when your buddy calls and he's got $200, that's still valid, right?
Oh yeah.
And then when Tom Segura calls, put a 0 on the end of that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to scare them away, but I mean, those guys aren't doing this stuff for their health.
No,
they're doing this stuff to sell.
100%.
So you're working on comedians. Cole, what kind of stuff you working on?
Absolutely, yeah. And you're too funny. I swear you've turned into the host now. Like you're interviewing us at this point.
You guys
did a good job.
All the revenues, all 17 cents, right here.
No, you're coming for our job right now.
Yeah.
So I see you. But I started out in the apparel space. I was doing activewear apparel. I worked for Element and O'Neill and Hurley and those sort of brands.
Action sports stuff. And I know that you're no stranger to the action sports space. So very cool, the similarities there. But that once I graduated from college, I went into a creative agency and worked there. And they weren't as creative as I'd want a creative agency to be, because we worked a lot on sort of like the real estate side and large paychecks when it comes to like the large purses that people want to pay for those sort of projects. But so I started CoOp Design, which is my Instagram account, based off of the work that I wanted to create and wasn't able to create at the creative agency. And so I just put out work I wanted to have and receive, and that's really launched out my full-time freelance job, which is what I'm doing now, and things have just been going really well, and just happy with everything. Yeah, so that allowed me to leave my creative agency job and pursue this full time. Cool. Well, you got to work on some cool stuff. Maybe the supplements up in Montana weren't. I don't know. I mean, it's like, listen, if you can deal with them, and if the paycheck's high and you can handle it, keep that paycheck coming in.
Yeah.
But don't lose sight of what you guys love to make the most. This is, okay. Now whatever graph you're on, it's like like on a stereo, you have highs and lows and things and, little levels and shit, right? You know, on yours, you got to work on cool stuff. Maybe the money wasn't quite, whatever, hey, you guys are going to have a lot of different kinds of jobs.
Yeah.
And you embrace that, and and by isn't just embrace the shittiest term going. And what sucks? Wait, 100% sucks.
Yeah.
Nothing's 100%. Certitude sucks. This 100%. Maybe it's more like 90% Joe Rogan. You got a piece of.
Well, that's really what this whole podcast has been about too, is like having artists, find their value. We brought on the greats like yourself to be able to chat through and talk about how these evolve and how you can, work through a full-time freelance position and evolve as a graphic designer, get the money that you want to get paid. And also like I swear, when you first start out as a freelancer, nothing, less than nothing. Everything's a guessing game, and it's all a learning cycle. Yeah. And it isn't things except for like things like this platform where you're able to find out what other people are doing. And Cam has said this plenty of times, we've said it on the show, but graphic design is a very lonely thing. Yeah. So if we're able to talk to each other, and this is how me and Cam met, was through social media.
Yep.
And we had all these similarities, and we just started clicking so well because we haven't had this relationship where we can talk to other graphic designers and hear from one another. And so that's what it's been a really cool thing, and having you on just echoes that.
Yeah, I can say this, having worked in freelance for a while now. I think I've progressed more as a designer, being able to network and talk with Cole and other designers. And so this, as beneficial as it is for our viewers, what I needed when I first started is what we're trying to provide here for young designers trying to come up and find their groove and find their niche in this huge, gigantic world of graphic design.
It's good to talk about it. Remember, you guys, you get locked in a job. Let's just say the money's real big and the creativity, whatever. But you're able to sock some money away. Sometimes that's like the best spot to be in. But whatever knob is for, like, Larry, you got to sit next to him. Karen, you got to sit to over here. Whoever these people are, you might want to kill you. Hate the world you're sitting in, and that's where that that level goes way down. And you got to remember, you're over the course of a lifetime, if you can find people that you can confide in, and people that you can bounce ideas off and figure stuff out together, then those are good things. You might not get it at the big job. So however you whatever network you can, I have certain friends who I can go to talk to about scary stuff like taxes, how much you make. I don't need to discuss on here, but it's more like I can't really go to some of my other friends who might be having a hard go, right?
Yeah.
A harder go, and I just don't want to, patronize anyone or freak anyone out. But these guys I look up to, they're up the food chain a little bit. I can kind of, cry to them like, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
And you're going to have that in your life too. People that you can kind of go to and go up the thing, and you just have to have a good network of people you can bounce off. Because listen, I think there's always, it's good practice to have more eyeballs on something than just your own two, right? And it might be just the two of you guys bouncing a design back and forth. It might be, putting it in, on your Instagriz here.
Yeah.
And, you had that. You had old Francisco I never made here. I'm looking
at
that is what a spicy little pepper he is, huh?
Oh yeah.
God, he's great, man. He's great. I mean,
it was so fun having him on.
There's a lot of meat on this frame, and man, he's
I know.
And must be nice, Cole. Must be nice. Yeah. So when I get around him, we do a lot of hugging. Just a lot of friction. A lot of
we talked about you for maybe like 5 minutes or so on his podcast, and he talks about the first time you guys met. So you might want to watch that. It was a great story.
Sure. I mean, he's got a heavy job, man. He's got a heavy job, and I mean, look what he is helping put out into the world, I mean, I'm a fan of Shepherd, I mean, it goes way back.
Oh yeah.
way back in mid 90s, I would say. But to see him have that crew, I know another guy named Jason Philippou who works for those guys also, but he's a little quieter about it. But he works in their second facility. But that's a cool job. And that's not an easy job. And to see him navigate the heaviness of that job, and then have make all that time to make all that never made. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Because
Totally.
it's not easy. You get home after being, I don't know what that, lining up posters for Shepherd, everyone 10 more grand, 10 more grand, 10 more grand, 20 more grand, 30 more grand, 5 more grand, whatever, the Clash, these guys, I don't know what the hell these guys are doing down there, but he's doing it. When you see him on his own, he doesn't have to have that thing to rely on. And that's really what my love for that guy is like, hey, man, he's got a big name to help get him out there, but he's doing it on his own. That's pretty cool. Man.
Sure is.
Good you guys had him on there. Have you met him? I mean, you guys hang out?
Me and Cam have not even met each other.
Yeah, this podcast purely came from having a nightmare mutual
4 hours away from each other.
I know.
We will meet. We're actually planning on going to Designer Con together.
Yeah.
And,
you guys should meet in the Inland Empire or something.
We're trying to figure out what that middle section is.
You guys can meet on some highway somewhere.
Yeah. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, totally.
A burger joint that does not that is not
you meet at Six Flags.
No, that's the burger joint that's not part of a big chain. That's what I like. And the one thing I will say about SoCal is how many one-off burger joints there were. Just sort of like elbow burger.
Yeah.
I don't know. A phlegm burger.
Are you a fan of In-N-Out?
Oh, fuck. I'll eat the whole bag.
Dude,
bag.
speaking of In-N-Out,
the tray, lick all the.
Oh my God, it's too good.
There might be a little bit of salt on the handles of the doors. Lick just to get a little extra boost. Of course.
We have in Bakersfield, we have one of the last Woolworth buildings in America, and they converted it into an antique store, which is actually my very first job ever on paper. And they have a diner on the side that's all decked out how the Woolworth diner were, and they serve burgers out of there. And I kid you not, they're some of the best burgers I've ever had.
Well, that's what they used to do, like the world was a smaller place, and you would go and you would have lunch right there, and you would shop and, I don't know, shoplift, whatever you want to call it. You do it all in sort of like this, get your photos taken, you would get your hair cut, half a block away, we keep talking about what we want our Portland to be, and where we're going to take it and where it's going to take us. And it's like, I don't know, I've done a lot of time here, and I'm getting a little itchy, maybe to go try something else. And,
okay.
If you could go somewhere where you could walk to get where you get your hair cut, or walk to, just don't need 50 of those places, but maybe there's one of each. Maybe that might be the next sort of thing, living in a city, or not even living in a city, like living 40 miles away from a Portland, right? Or if we were to go back home to the Midwest, living, outside, a couple hours outside of Chicago or outside of Detroit or something. And then you go into the city, for the couple times, 3-4 times a year even, I mean, interesting enough, where I live here, in Portland, Oregon, I mean, we're in the city, sure. But there's times where I'm only going to check my mail.
Yeah.
Am I really using a cultural thing, seeing a band, going to see some art, going to one of these? I mean, obviously with the pandemic, that turned everything off.
Yeah.
And we realized just sort of how lucky we were to be in this backyard and ride all this stuff out. So it sounds like you were okay. You had business coming in. That's good. Nicole, I hope you were okay too. If you guys are able to pull it off, because I heard some pretty tricky stories out there.
I know you did do some work for the Obama administration. It'd be awesome to hear a bit more about how that went, your process, and
I want to hear about all the tears that went down your cheek, because I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, just to be perfectly transparent, I was a little amped on that thing. Now the power of perception is something that I have to be careful with, because
Yeah.
it's really easy for me to be like, I got to work for Barry Obama, Barack Obama. No, I didn't. I mean, it is, yes, but first of all, another agency called me to pinch hit. I was able to hit something.
Yeah.
Who knows? For all I know, they might have been talking to multiple other people. I
Mhm.
wouldn't really know, but it was a great privilege, because I believed in these guys. There's a certain wind in your sails when you're working on that stuff, where yes, it was time compromised. Yes, instantly, it wasn't really even about money, and that is like kind of like a historical opportunity.
Yeah.
If not necessarily for America, that's pretty pompous to talk like that, but for yourself, and you owe it to yourself to the culmination of all these years of doing this stuff to try to really, show up and do that thing in a cool, creative way. So, that really went in the sales. And the story that I don't tell much about that was when that went down in that sort of spring of 2009.
Yeah.
That weekend, we were going up to Spokane to go junking with my buddy Dale, my buddy Jess. And to show you kind of what an asshole I am, chapter 3,467, whatever, square root of whatever, to illustrate what you're messing with here, the talent that you guys have utilized today and exploited. I didn't miss that weekend. We still went up to Spokane. So what that meant was I was in the back of my Passat wagon at the time, and Dale was driving, and I had a pillow, and I had my laptop and my pencil, field notes, and I was sketching and building and sketching and building. And by the time we get, these 5 or 6 hours up to Spokane from Portland, I had a bunch of stuff, in my field notes, and I was already starting to vector that night.
Cool.
I don't know what those two did, and I don't remember what those two did in Spokane. They went out dancing and fighting and fucking whatever, stealing. Who knows what they were doing?
Sounds like a party.
They went out, but I remember I stayed in the hotel and just kind of like head down, and really got a lot done. And then I remember the next morning we got up, we hit the big estate sale that we were going to go do.
Oh yeah.
And then we hit that, pretty early. And then I went to a Starbucks and got on the Wi-Fi and started to put together that first presentation. So I had about 3 days to work, and just to, illustrate, like, I shouldn't have really left,
Yeah.
but the sort of momentum that you get from that opportunity, I could have done it from anywhere. I was just so excited to do it, right? So that's a weird thing, because other times it's like pulling teeth, but as far as process, sketch, look all over the world online, I couldn't really go out and really, bang, rattle the cage of businesses and stuff, because it was just such a fast timeline. We got called on a Wednesday. I think I had the first round to them by Saturday, so I had a lot of stuff. Here's the thing: if you have a good sketch, it's just architecture, as I say, because it starts with a good sketch, and then once you get those basic shapes, then you can go crazy, and really let the really flex within the old Illustrator, this sort of infinite kind of thing. So it was the same sort of deal,
Very much so.
That really hasn't changed ever, you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, how I work and how I've been so lucky to work. So, and that would have been no different with Bernie, or really any of them.
Yeah.
And remember, you have to understand, it's not like, Senator Bernie Sanders is calling me. No. It's layers upon layers upon layers, all the way down the muck.
Aaron, I need you to do this design for me.
1%.
That would be amazing.
Great guy. Well, I'm a Bernie guy at heart.
Yeah.
Of course, and
feel the burn, baby.
I voted for him. Of course, I try to get him up into that thing, but where all America's not ready for that kind of integrity. Just not. I'm excited for Kamala. Whatever. Here we go getting political, but to work on something like that, you just get this weird sense of like, how lucky are you to do this? How
Yeah.
lucky are you to be able to go in and do what you do for something that is going to affect a lot of people?
Yeah.
It was terrifying. I mean, remember when the thing I did was this ARRA, the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, or something like this. That was putting people back to work. That's not necessarily something that's all kinds of people. And listen,
Yeah.
I say horrible things about Republicans, and I'm going to stop that. It's not necessarily Republicans. It's Trumpers,
Yeah.
people that got behind that piece of fuck, right? Okay, right? So listen, it's okay to be conservative. It's okay to have different sets of values and all sorts of stuff. Well, either you get with it or it's just going to whip past you.
I'm right there with you.
What side of history do you want to be on? I want to be on one where any kind of kid can feel like they can show up and participate and just all these sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's just all that kind of stuff. It's like I just don't ever want to use it as such a thing to like thud someone over the head and say I work for Bernie.
Yeah.
It's really there's lots of yeah, it's so like watered down. Like I've never shook the guy's hand. I shook Mr. Obama's hand. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cried a little bit. You've heard the story.
But,
hey, who are your heroes? Whatever that even means.
Yeah.
And we went and saw his inauguration. One of 2 million people out in that field, and
it's got to be a fantastic feeling.
It's just a cool thing. It's like this is history.
Yeah.
And 4, 5, 6 years later, I got to just shake that guy's hand. Listen, person to person, it's just a one micro moment.
Yeah.
A lot to me. It was a client meeting, we'll just say, but it was, I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful. I'm thankful, but you have to understand, I've worked for him in other capacities in other ways that I can't really even talk about, that weren't all that, it's not like he called me up. It was another agency that was working for his foundation. And they had me do some, basically, test stuff. You got paid for it,
Yeah, of course.
But it was, I didn't quite get it. And they went with someone else or went with someone internal or whatever the deal was. And that's just how the cookie crumbles,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a good chance when we were working on for that, me and my buddy Chris Glass, that could have all just went poof and went away like really fast. And we were told that.
Yeah.
If that happened, that would have been a big fish that got away. Well, it went through, but it's like currency. It's like I don't want to spend that in a way where I'm disingenuous about really what it meant, or really what my role was. I got lucky, because you have to understand when you see people do like selected work and all that kind of stuff on their sites, and you put Nike and that people they don't give a shit that I worked on some guy's food cart.
Yeah.
Well, that might have meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
But you put the biggest stuff up there so you get bigger jobs. No, I like to show all of it.
Yeah.
Every time I get to talk about Chris Stapleton, big country guy, I get to talk about somebody that you wouldn't have heard about that's a rock and roller, right?
Yeah.
Like this sort of like, I try to police in my little, just check myself so I'm not relying on that stuff because that's not. Remember, if you play it in a way that isn't, you can get bit by it. You could end up, making yourself look like something you aren't.
Yeah.
And then getting a big job and then getting in trouble and getting embarrassed, maybe even getting like, you got to be careful with those contracts you sign, right? So
totally. Yeah. I have my website kind of decked out to where it's like you do see some notable clients, but you have all of my proudest things. And I do a yearly kind of like yearbook to highlight. I have them printed up right here. I'm not going to flip this shit around, but I update my website with that yearbooks full of my favorite like list of badges and tiny illustrations and stuff. But yeah, you got to remember, the most fun projects aren't going to be for, the biggest celebrity or something. And that's a piece of information I got from you from watching you for so long, but it's those little jobs that kind of remind you, why you're doing what you're doing,
Well, for you to tell me about the Tom Segura thing or the Burt thing, listen, if I just saw that work and I didn't even know it was for those two sort of, fucking titans of comedy or whatever they are, if I didn't know that and I just saw the work and it looked cool and they did the job and it was, refreshed, they had good type and good moves and good things, then I would say, well, damn, you did the job, I mean, what, by you telling me that, it gives it, extra like oomph for me to go dig it up and see the work you did, so,
Yeah.
Remember, you guys, sometimes you can get a lot of mileage out of something that,
Yeah.
they won't recognize the names,
Oh, for sure. There's gonna be
There's
work.
ways to do that too.
Yeah, there's so much work everywhere to where it's like, you either know the person's style or you don't. Or and a lot of design, whether you know the person, can be easily looked past because you're just kind of used to seeing it in certain genres of design. And so it's like there's probably some stuff that you did that I didn't recognize, and I just like, oh, that's a cool design. That's a cool design. Oh,
there's also
that's definitely Draplin.
there's also a lot of things that, it's not necessarily appropriate to show.
Yeah.
It's not really, fodder for me to tap into, if that makes sense. It's like, I'm going to show a little update I did this week for these guys called Walrus Oil. And they're going to be pumped because, they have a big following. And then I got a little bit of a following, and I'll kind of say, hey, I got this cool job and we worked on this last month and a half or whatever. And here's the stuff. They've updated all their stuff. But, some jobs, have big NDAs, and then you're not really in that position to go and kind of hype them up. You're just doing the job. And I have to say that's okay too, because it comes with a paycheck. And so there's a lot of stuff I can't really even show. I know that sounds sort of like, oh, everyone says that, but that's the truth. It's like, that's not really. So here's the deal. What happens if all your jobs were those sorts of big agency, whatever you want to call it, co-op jobs, where they call you and then you work with them, that's my level, whatever, whatever your level is, it's like, and you're not allowed to show any of it. So what the hell are you going to show? You better have stuff you make on your own. Right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, this is the thing. It's like, that's why when I say all this stuff, like, guys, I don't care how much money you made. I don't care if it's for Bert or whatever. You show good work, that goes a long way.
Yeah, 100%.
That kind of deal.
I wanted to ask too, because recently more and more I've been hearing about the perks of working with agencies versus like one-on-one client work. And they say that getting one client work, you do the job and then you finish, you're done, right? But you do an agency job and you can have them come back to you 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and you have a client continual. What would you say about someone just starting out? Would you go for that agency job, a mixture of the two, or and when I say job, I just mean working with an agency, as a freelancer?
I think you take anything that lands in your lap, which is just sort of good policy. It's we all
pick and choose, obviously.
Well, we all want it to be whatever your little levels are, whatever your boundaries are, whatever your okay, now you're pushing me where I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to do, or holy shit, I'm making so much money I don't have to think about this. We all want those things to be lined up, but it's one out of every 25 jobs that you kind of feels like that. There's 24 jobs where you're going to be tired, behind the eight ball, ask a little extra. They're going to say, Cole's going to agree on something, and then Cam's going to not want to do that, and it's going to go back and forth, and whatever, and then I'm in the middle going, whoa, pick the damn thing, and there's just strategies for how to deal with kind of all those too, right? But I think that as long as you show good solutions, be it for whoever, there's a way to get the thing done. But to answer your question, you take whatever you can get, because sometimes it is kind of feast or famine. If you guys are lucky to have a lot of work, well then cool.
Yeah.
Some people aren't, and it's like, so be good about that. Now check it out. If you guys have too much work, have the next buddy down the line that you can send to her and say, hey, here's a gig. She's great at this, he's great at this, she's great at this. You have people that you can go push stuff off because these things land in your lap. It's like a currency. Go see if you're gonna spend it the best way, which might not be for you guys because you're too busy. I just always take a little too much on because I just haven't really lost the buzz of like, It is so fucking awesome to make money
Yeah.
doing something I like, working with pretty cool people. It's many layers of privilege on top of that. Because if you stop for just 1 second and say, whoa, 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 let's just start at the first thing. Is the money good or bad, right? Whatever that means. Let's just say the money's not so good. You're still making money. Let's say it's a lot. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's say it totally sucks. Well, guess what else sucks? Working at Papa John's.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that we get to make money creating every day. It's
this is the deal. I had those Papa John's jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been a long time, but what was your first job? What was your first job? Whatever those jobs were.
Yeah.
You said working at an antique store. Okay, Cam. Okay. Well, I tap into that stuff, and I kind of remember that, and then I get a little less poopy about things, because it's like, man, this shit's cake, and I'm gonna complain about creative freedom. I'm gonna complain that someone wants me to loop back around and have to redo something. Man, fuck up, man. We are so lucky to have this. Go sell insurance.
Yeah, really.
The software is gray. It just sucks. And you're lying through your teeth, and wearing golf shirts and shit. Go sell insurance. You jump out of a basement window. You should run to get to your post every morning and be like, taking a buck doing this stuff. Talk about, so I just try to keep that perspective. And yet today, I work today. It's hotter than whatever the hell outside. Hotter than 80s, but it's like, we're not going to go do nothing, but I worked. I didn't want to necessarily work, but, I'll take some time off tomorrow, to do other things. And this is the great privilege of what we get to do.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Now, if you're in an agency, that might mean that they make you be ready for them at 10 in the morning until they pay you through a retainer or something. Just be careful what you ask for. The more detached you can be, probably the better, the more mystery, and remember, you guys are also just based on like being young kids.
Yeah.
They're gonna give you a different price. I get to, revel in this quality of like, well, I bet your price is really big. Like I was just on a call with something big a couple days ago, Friday.
Yeah.
Reputable, something that we all know and all play with. Now I'm giving you something.
Yeah, you are.
Now the kid starts the thing off. He goes, well, you know what? I know we're a big thing, and well, this job, it just doesn't have a big budget. And I said, well, stop right there. Tell me more.
Yeah.
The budget sucks. Great. Keep going. Oh, the job's going to suck too. Keep telling me more. By the way, Draplin, you got to pay for it. You got to pay us to do the job. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Pay me fair. I'm not going to bellyache about that. I don't expect you to pay off, get me a new tooth or something. I don't expect that.
Yeah.
I expect you to pay me fairly. If you start by saying the job sucks, why even keep the call going?
Yep.
You say the budget's going to be so, worth of shit. Why are you even calling me? I mean, do you expect us? You are, and it's like a, I can't even say what it is. You guys are a big fucking thing. You get at Target. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I kind of said that to him. I just said, listen, when I got to work for Metallica, and you heard of them. They're a heavy metal outfit out of San Francisco.
No, I never heard of them.
Stay away from anything past the first 4 or 5 albums. Just be careful.
I agree.
You know what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ. So, I'm gonna stop. But I remember the guy saying, well, this job, it's not a very big budget. And I just kind of was like, I went and saw them in 1988. I was 15 years old. I will do this job for nothing because it's this band I grew up loving.
Yep.
How dare you tell me this job sucks and that this budget sucks? It's fucking Metallica.
Yep.
Those guys made $100 million last year. Shame on you.
Yep.
Let me do the work. You've got my heart. Now pay me like I can take this to the grave. I got to work for a band I love.
Yep.
I got paid fairly. Let this be this. And they did, and the band never even saw the work. And I still got paid, and that's just how the shit goes.
It is how it goes. There's a handful of times to where it's like I've done, great work, and there's always a chance that you're not going to see it at the end of the day. And I've gotten used to it, but it's almost kind of heartbreaking in the sense. But when you start making money, that's kind of where it's at, to where it's like, all right, whatever you want to do with the deliverables.
You're in a minefield. You're in a minefield. You're going to step on something that's going to explode. Sometimes you're going to miss things, and it's, some of this stuff's a bit of a coin toss. Listen, you go get an agency job, it's pretty, there's the money, it's good money, it's whatever. But remember, that also means you're going to be on Zoom calls with a bunch of people that you might not want to be in the same room with. I'm just saying, I've had a couple of those, but for the most part, everyone's cool and smart and on top of things, and I just try to be a good little citizen. You just got to be careful what you ask for, but there is really I don't think there is a formula.
No.
For Cole, you take whatever fucking job comes on the pipe and you charge them as much as you can, because
it's the best advice.
Well, the next one, I know, real scientific, but the next is on the line might be kind of crappy, but it's good on the creativity.
Yeah.
It might be lots of money, but you're going to get pushed around. So, sometimes you hit on all. And I think that's just sort of the, it's how you navigate.
Totally. I totally had to learn how to build my equity last year, even with a Tom Segura job. I gave him a free design. I got his attention.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey man, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. And he just shit on pro wrestling. And I was like, I'm a fan of your podcast. I'm a fan of wrestling. Here's a t-shirt of you ripping off your shirt as Hulk Hogan. And, I got his contact email, and then he started paying me for designs. And It's just like, and from there, now people see that, and now you can use it as kind of a platform. No, I haven't worked with them for about a few months, and it's okay. The way I
remember, these guys have 1,000 things going on. Exactly. And by the way, they have a lot of other cams trying to get that job.
Yep. Yep. And it's time for another cam to take his attention and doing all that stuff.
It's real easy for me I want to go grovel to Marin. Give me some more work. No. I think what I did, if it's in the cards, he can come to me and we can negotiate, instead of, being, I'm so thankful for all the stuff. Like this summer, I'm just trying to get a couple jobs done right now. And this summer, what I'm going to do is I'm getting ready to start really populating my new website, right? Things going on the page. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of merch to get updated. There's a lot of numbers and things.
As long as you still keep the little black and white toggle, I'll be happy.
Moving on, fellas. That website was a piece of 1997 turd.
Okay? It's not the most intuitive thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's not a UX splendor, by any stretch. It's a piece of shit. We'll just call it a good old turd. Well, that thing is, we're going to put it's done its job. You have to understand though. Those PayPal links still generate what they generate.
Yeah.
What happens when it works on phones, iPads, dingleberries, speaking spells, goddamn, the readout on your Nest or something, it's going to work on everything. What happens then? Well, you might sell a lot more shit. And we really totally. Because if we only have so much on hand.
Yeah.
So, this is the stuff that, listen, people considerably smarter than me warn me about and say, Drapplin, your site's a piece of shit, but you got people coming in there and buying stuff.
Yeah.
When you get up to speed too fast, you might be overwhelmed. 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. So no one ever talks about that. They just love to say, your site sucks. And I'll say, but do you know how many orders Lee has to fill? Even with those piece of shit PayPal links? What happens when it works on these things called, what do they call them again? Phones.
Yeah.
We're in trouble. So that's going to happen. And that's what I'm getting ready to go into. And what I'm getting at is like, it's allowing me to go through the roster and be like, wow, man, there were a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
But there is some math there. Some of the jobs you just can't show because I wasn't allowed to be at my best, or whatever you want to call it, or something was weird. So that's not the best thing to show, but there was a lot of stuff wasn't even worth a buck, but it's good work. And you
Yeah.
gotta show it, right? And really, it's not like I'm trying to get more work. It's more like I just want to celebrate all the stuff I was able to pull off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a motherfucker today. Spend 6 weeks doing. So that's what we're getting ready to go into here in July. Is like, okay, today is the comedian's day. Wyatt Cenac, Mark Maron, Dean Del Rey. I've
Nice.
done one little turd for Dean, but still, that's
Mhm.
still Dean Del Rey, John Hodgman, whatever. That day when I work on these 4 or 5 people, 6 people I've worked for, I got to go organize the stuff. I got to open up the file. I got to get it off the cold storage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and until, have the new format, the right sizes, and then I'm done. I've got that thing filled up, populated, and I go to the next one, which is, I don't know, working for political things or whatever. So each day will be like these chapters. And hopefully by the end of that, I've got, a lot of this work. I loaded logos already. There were 300 logos in my logo section.
Dang.
Like, why not just 30?
Yeah. Yeah. No shit.
Because I was excited to say 25 years of this shit. And
Mhm.
some years were 30 things, and some years were whatever you want to call it, and 10 or whatever. So, really proud of that. That's
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
That's coming soon. That's gonna, hopefully,
I'm very much looking forward to it.
if we can populate it all, cool. Then I got to make sure that all the, the little things connect and all this stuff for the because really the vessel is the, the merch shop.
Yeah.
Making sure that thing starts to work properly on phones and
Yeah.
stuff, all the, the all the weirdness within. But show me that hound. What do you got there?
he was crawling up on my leg. This is Herman.
Herman, you little son. How much? Oh, you little son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Oh, you little. How much meat could you get off you, Herman? That's right.
I know, right?
We're in the
He's
pandemic, buddy.
He's about 25 pounds, so you can
Keeps looking at me. He keeps looking at me sideways because he can tell I'm talking a little shit.
He's like, Dad, why
That's
you
a
doing
cute dog, man.
Thanks.
We're in the market. We're in the market. We want to get.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't give a. I'm just gonna get a dog with 4 legs,
Yeah.
a tail, and an asshole, and then be fine with it.
Well,
But
I will say, having a French bulldog, they're very, very high maintenance. So,
right? Oh,
yeah. So be prepared to spend a pretty penny, but also spend a lot of time. One, you'll be distracted, but you gotta wipe their ass every day for the first 2 months, and that's
just like
that's
Dad.
brutal. Yep, just like Dad.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
All right.
I had little Gary the wiener dog, and then little Gary,
Oh.
little shit, he died. And
Yeah.
okay, but
He was on your. You designed something and put it on your poster, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I have your poster like right behind me, behind the green
Yeah,
screen.
heard of that. Well, we want to get another dog, and
Yeah.
I would just ask for compact because I don't
Yeah.
want a dog, But I'm when we, I really, really, really should have just done it at the start of the pandemic, but because we were locking down,
Mhm.
we'd have time to be with this little creature, so, but that's coming. That's coming. We
Oh,
miss
yeah.
having a dog around here,
Totally.
it's just,
Yeah.
I was on the road for a lot of years, and that wouldn't have been the most appropriate thing to do is to bring that little person into
For sure.
this little backyard because I was leaving a lot, right? And going out and entertaining son of a bitches like you. You too.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the
Exactly.
live show? Have you been to any of this? Have I met you guys before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, I get on these things and the kid will be like, Draplin. It's
yeah,
Larry.
exactly.
It's Larry. It's Larry from Albuquerque. Oh, Larry, there you are.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Larry. I can't remember. I met so many kids out there. But you know what? We get bullshitting. We start talking about things. They'll say where I met them, and then we had dinner that night. Oh, there you are. And then you kind of
put that together and stuff.
because, well, I mean, when I was on the road, as much as I was, at some point you guys start to get on planes too, right?
Yep.
And then, we're crisscrossing things, or we're going to the same conference together. And I would have these guys that come up to me, you're Draplin. We were just somewhere. Oh, I know. We went to a neighborhood garage sale, maybe Tuesday.
Oh, cool.
Went to this neighborhood garage sale. First one I go up to, I'm with my little sister, my brother-in-law, Jacob, Leah, Jacob, and Oliver. I'm with Lee, my girl Lee. So 5 of us. We walk up, first guy, oh my God, Aaron Draplin. So, you kind of go, hey man, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
First time I've been recognized, pandemic, because we've just been kind of laying low. Go to the next garage sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk up and some kid goes, oh, Draplin, I follow you. Now,
He followed you.
This is all cool stuff,
I
but
say,
it was
get
like,
the fuck back in your car.
well, Lee is like, you live here. Don't let your head swell too big, And you, by the way, look at you, water buffalo. You're walking up on this place. They see you from a mile away.
It's not like a mask.
It's not like you blend in, And I mean, we're all messed up in the whole bit.
It's probably the hat. It's probably the hat.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big sign. Like me. Follow this.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do if you rolled up to my garage sale. I'd probably just tell you to take my stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're there digging around, and it's like, man, I'm not even really there to buy stuff, really. I'm just there to kind of try to find some little gems to share with, you guys or anyone for that matter, And I mean, I've been doing that for a lot of years. It's not even about the one thing as I get older is the idea of paring down, I'm not going to let that happen when I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it in a creative way soon here. And if that means like just taking before my dad died, we would see him get a little emotional when we'd say, you got to get rid of some of this stuff, but you can't rip that stuff away from that person.
Yeah.
That's their life. That's their identity. It's whatever. And then this one time my dad was like, you're right. I got to get rid of some of this stuff. And he understood that if it's in a box on the wall, it's cool to have it. Yeah. But if it's only in a box on a wall, why even have it? Right?
Yeah.
What I was saying things to him like, well, Dad, what we would do is we would, take this stuff, put a big piece of cardboard on the ground or a big white sheet on the ground or make a little sweep or something, and paint that thing matte black. And I would lay it on this little matte black sweep, and then I would shoot this stuff for you. So you'd have it on this nice clean background.
That's cool.
And then we'll get you an iPad and you can just flick through, and then you see the stuff and go, oh, the memories of this thing.
Yeah.
He had a World War II parachute that didn't even have any chute to it. There were no lines or whatever. It was just a para or the chute. Nice. There was no whatever. What an asshole. Why's he got that?
Right.
Well, we let it go. And then it's like if he had that in a pile, I'm like, Dad, remember when he had the parachute and all the jokes start and all this? So then he dies, right? Before we could really do that and help him pare down. So now when I'm home, it's real weird. And I've just been having these weird moments of like, listen, the trap you fall into, it's cool to have all this stuff.
Yeah.
But the value, and if it's just sitting in a pile and you're kind of sitting on it, and I've been really wrestling with this stuff. So one of the things I want to do is get that website done.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do a fucking overhaul of all these archives because it's no good just sitting in here.
Yeah,
I'll
totally.
take a photo of it on a sweep and then put that onto my stuff. And I've got my buzz, this angle, that angle, this angle, that angle. I'll put it back out into the world for someone else to enjoy it because it's just sitting.
Yeah.
There's better use of your space. You know what I mean? So I've been wrestling with this stuff. You guys are still young, right? You got to go out and get nasty. If you can do that just digitally, then do it.
Yeah.
But, you got to go out and spend years looking for things, getting inspired, and not just going and looking at the latest thing that I don't know, whoever the hell on their design feed.
Yeah. 100%.
You fall into that stuff, 98%. You fall into that stuff, it's like there's a sameness. When you've heard this from me 1,000 times, but just even going to that yuppie yard sale thing we went to.
Yeah.
A lot of it was stuff you bought at Target a couple years ago, but there'd be a little junk drawer every other one. And there's no way of knowing what you're going to come across there.
Totally.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. I kind of have a similar story. My dad was a hoarder. He had some really, really cool things. And we discussed this before we started recording, but when my dad passed away, I had to my life just drastically changed, and figuring out that design is something I actually wanted to do for the rest of my life, and all that stuff. Reading your book also really inspired me. But going through his stuff, I got to kind of throw away some of the stuff that I had been wanting to, and because I'd been telling him for years, like, hey man, you got to consolidate, we got to figure this out because you have too much shit. And one of the things, I used that story as a segue. One, your book really helped me get through a lot of stuff, the heartbreak of my dad passing away. But and I'll always be appreciative for that. But now the segue of throwing his stuff away, there is some things that I kept. And I heard you on an interview. It was either podcast interview, Facebook Live, or something. But you said something about fonts, and I had to find this because this little box is how sign painters got it done. You said sign painters, they have to go out and find boxes of fonts. And so that's what this is.
So those are little, yeah, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, you got to keep anything graphic design related. You got to keep all that stuff.
All of it. No, it's in my garage. It's not going anywhere.
Good.
I got his airbrush. I got his airbrushes. I've got his projector and stuff. It's just the stuff that's too sentimental that I just can't get.
If you were able to use it, that would be.
I'm pretty sure I can get a new bulb for it.
But the idea that some dads are military or executives, salespeople or something.
Yeah.
Your dad was in the graphic arts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty cool thing. So I hope you kept a lot of that. And if anything, just, condensed it down to the perfect, most potent, sort of equal, there's an equilibrium to how you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Same size archival boxes stacked away nicely, not all just, willy-nilly shit flying all over the place, shit into things, and flat goes flat, volume goes volume, right. Because, what I've been doing when I go home is I've just been refining down, here's another 10 things from my dad, and I have a big file of him. I have a big file that I put it into, be it clipping.
That's really cool. That's a good idea.
And I go and have a good hard cry every now and again, and go through that stuff, and I can enjoy it. And then get on to the next damn thing instead of it just being this sort of well, I'm 100%. Sorry you lost your dad. And I hope you're doing okay. And it's a weird little honor.
Yeah.
You found something in those, weird words, me talking about the universe and shit, dads and stuff.
Yeah.
I was real lucky to have a cool dad, and I like to share that. I shared him, I shared him. And now with my nephew Oliver, he doesn't remember my dad, but my dad loved that kid for those first 3 years of his little life.
That's
Oliver's 11 now, right? So,
you just posted something about him the other day,
we get to utilize, what the same dad jokes and bullshit that my dad did. We get to, abuse that kid with all that stuff now.
Yeah.
He always did it from a place of keeping it loose, keeping it fun. That's right, dogs.
Yeah, I know.
Fun, so, I hope, just, remember, you're going to see him again, and maybe you aren't, and no one knows.
Exactly.
So, what? It's kind of like, what was I watching the other day? The Step Brothers or whatever, where they were and they were can we go build the bunk bed? And they're and, this kind of quality of what was Dumb and Dumber,
Yeah.
And there's a chance. And there's a chance. And she goes, never in a million years, everything to do with it. She goes, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what? There's a chance you're going to see him again.
Yep.
There's a chance you die and you go to a place called heaven. Who knows? There's a chance you die and all you are is just dust in the wind, right? That's the other. Let's go the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Hey, man, no one knows.
No one knows.
You got to live your life good, and you got to be a good person, and be. You see someone needs some help, you do whatever the hell you can to help them. I watched my dad do that. And it sounds like that's what you guys have been set up too. Cole, your parents still around or?
They are, but my dad's
man, go call them tonight.
I was just with them earlier. My dad was a big inspiration for myself. He was kind of actually creative, but he was a part of the activewear industry in a big way. So
What brand? What brands?
Gotcha.
Of course. So how old's your dad?
70.
Yes. Gotcha. Jimmy's.
Jimmy's.
Yeah.
I don't know Jimmy's, but he was a part of OP as well.
He would know Jimmy's.
I'm sure.
Gotcha. Of course, Gotcha. OP.
Ocean Pacific.
Oh, yeah. Another one to go throw at him is one brand called Lagoons. Legoons. Lagoons. And just see what he says, because he might go, oh, those bastards at Lagoons. Life's a Beach. Life's a Beach was a big brand in the 80s. So was your dad doing all this work in the mid 80s?
So he was CFO. So he was a part of the finance side of the whole thing, but he had about 50 brands under his belt at one time. So
what was the larger holding group or whatever they call it? Is it still a thing?
I don't think there was a part. It wasn't really that. He was, he was asked to come on with it from two of his buddies.
Well, what I mean is, like, when I worked at the magazines, someone owned us.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I wouldn't know.
Okay. Because
but I do know back then it was less of that because the surfwear was really the Wild West,
like right. I mean, when he would probably know Van Dorn and all those guys.
Yeah, of course.
The idea is that was out of their garage for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
In 1985, surf culture hit the rest of America. Well, that's awesome, man. That means your dad was making this stuff. I remember that Gotcha logo. But then I remember I got a good 20 years on you guys. I was 15 when that stuff was starting to hit us, and there's this one guy that we used to work with. He's about 65 years old, right? This one guy up in Seattle, he used to talk about back in the Swatch days, Swatch watches. In the mid 80s, Swatch was and still is a pretty big thing, but
a lot of resurgence.
It ruled the earth, right? So he worked on Union Bay and a number of other things, and it's all about perspective. If you go, Cole, you said Element, right? That was at one time, it might still be. It was a big outfit, bands on there and all that stuff. And
absolutely,
boy, what an interesting guy old Bam is these days, huh? I hope the guy's okay.
Me too, man.
It's one thing to laugh at that stuff and kind of watch the train wreck, but that shit'll mess people up. All this fame,
totally.
Right? And money and by the way, purple Lamborghinis and I don't know what else.
Those guys were off the.
I was a huge BAM fan, and I remember when Element skateboards just had this just overwhelming just domination over the skateboarding industry. Like, because I skateboarded that. Like, I have a whole history of different things that got me into graphic design, but Element skateboards and BAM.
Well, Cole, is Element still a monolith in that world, or is it just kind of like one of all? You know what I mean? Is it still a giant thing?
I don't know if I want to speak too much on how big the brand is, but I do remember when I was in there that like Nigel wasn't as big as he is today, but he was like walking through the office space and there was all these skaters, and it was such a cool work area. Everyone was so creative in there. Everyone was so talented.
Let's check it out. Some things are going to be a gotcha in a couple of years. You know what I mean? It's going to be really big and it's going to go away really fast. And the idea is your dad did it for a while. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That shit ruled the earth. And then listen, it goes away. He would remember Vision Streetwear, which is something I had back in the day. And now, the guys who owned Element, they would probably know about that. But remember, listen, that shit's gone.
Yeah.
And it was ink on a t-shirt. The idea is you're going to have a bunch of those things in your lap, Cole, and Cam, you're going to have some certain things. And when they go away, you just got to celebrate that you even got to be a part of it, whatever. Tiny bit.
That was the beginning of you as well, right? When you were in the snowboard industry, and that's how you started. You want to talk a bit more about how that all?
Yeah, first of all, I was already fucking with you about Newport Beach because I bought a Macintosh at Fashion Island one time.
Wow, nice.
We were doing some shoplifting around there.
Wow.
But I used to live down there for just 2 years. But here's the thing. I grew up in snowboarding. I grew up in skateboarding. We were a little more snowboarders because it turns out snowboarding was a lot easier. You could go
Oh yeah.
jumps and the shit was connected to your, Well,
Yeah.
I mean, skateboarding, those are two different worlds when you really get down to it. You don't really cross pollinate. There used to be a little bit when I was 95, 96, 90, whatever. But snowboarders don't go work for skateboarders. They got their own language, they got their own world, they got their own jokes, they got their own shoes. Okay. So you keep your distance. So I was definitely in the snowboarding camp because I had been out west with a bunch of guys up in Bend, Oregon, and met some go-getters when they were just shits, 19, 20 years, 18 years old. Met a bunch of guys who later on, when they got jobs, they offered me a job out of my school in Minneapolis. So listen, I wasn't interested in any of that anymore. I had went out west in 93. I was 19 years old. We did 5 winters in Bend, Oregon, riding Mount Bachelor, riding Mount Hood, riding around the west. And when I went back to Minneapolis, I gave it all up. I just was excited to go and be in the city.
Yeah.
I was excited to go be around record stores. I was excited to go be around things called girls, interesting things like this, buildings and stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's a different world, bus lines and shit. I was back in Minneapolis. Okay. So when I go into big, highfalutin art school and they teach you all the latest shit for 1998 and 1999, 2000 when I was there, I was ready to go get a job, right? Whatever I could get. But when these guys came calling, I got to go crash right back into the thick of it. Like up to that point before that, I had done some freelance, 93 to 98. I had done some freelance in the West, but it was tiny little things. I had a couple whole shots for graphics for other bigger brands. And listen, it's a bunch of Daryls running the thing, just like whatever. What you realize is when I got down to the beach where you live, when I got down there and we went and saw people in Costa Mesa at Volcom, and you get to see the biggest of the big. They were ruling the earth. They probably still are. I don't know. But we got to see that. It was like what you realize, it's a bunch of beach rats running the fucking,
Isn't
whatever.
that crazy?
It was awesome. It's not like they're
Isn't
like, now your dad might have been a polished guy as CFO to make sure everyone keeps their shit in line. But that's not what we met. We met a bunch of scrubs, who were just a couple years older than us. Okay. So it gives you this instant perspective that like, shit, man,
yeah,
ink on a t-shirt or ink on a skateboard or something slammed into fiberglass on a skateboard, snowboard. I did it for a number of years down there. And then I got back up to Oregon. And that's really where it took off working for the brands because established myself. I had somewhat of a reputation of somebody who could get the work done. And I got to work for a bunch of snowboarding brands that I used to know as a kid. Stuff would come, stuff would go. For the most part, never got stiff. There might have been a couple little wiggly moments, but here's the thing. I got to work in a world that I really looked up to, but at a later age. And that's a little bittersweet. Like, first of all, I don't use the word dude. So I was done with that world of like, fuck, dude, it's so sick up there. I don't live on the fucking beach. Now you live on the beach. That's different. You might have grown up surfing. I didn't. I grew up in Michigan, right? So that culture is part of you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But for me to go down there and infiltrate that stuff, it was like, I don't fucking care about uppers and lowers. And nice, like you'll see that right there. That's me in the tube. Look at that hand, it's like a little piece of meat, like a little fart.
Great.
I go to these surfer guys in the morning. I go, "What's up, fellas? That was me a couple hours ago over there at Lowers," and they're just like,
"Oh man, work out."
Fuck that.
It's funny. I mean, that's the culture here too, and in most of the activewear places I was at, it was known if the waves were good and people were coming in late, then no one said a word, right?
You know what? And that's awesome. I mean, I like to make fun of it because listen, as a big person, I went down there. I'm not going down in some fucking beach. Did Volcom even make shants that would fit me? I'm not wearing that shit. I went to Minneapolis where we were seeing bands and other, just depressing Midwestern bullshits. And it was awesome. I loved it. And you were going to, I would go to this like scrap metal yard and listen, there's scrap metal yards down there too. I could find that world there too. But there's no palm trees in Minneapolis. There's not, you know what I mean? You're not going 90 miles an hour in some fast, whatever. That world's not there.
Yeah.
So I got to go work in it. It was totally awesome. But I also realized that it's pretty fleeting. That the gotcha that your dad worked for was giant for a while and went away. So when you would see people go all in on something and then it went away, it was hard to see that.
Yeah.
Hard to see
and
that.
that's still happening now too. I would say, the
course.
activewear industry is getting hit hard.
Of course. You guys, a year ago, me going to my very close friends who still work primarily in that world, my buddy Pat Bridges lives in San Clemente, and Pat is the editor for years of Snowboarder magazine, right? He's a big voice in that sport. And me saying to him 1 year ago, Pat, are you even going to be able to have a winter? Like, what's happening with this stuff? I'm not connected to that world anymore. I don't know if they're okay or if it's bad or whatever you want to call it. But oddly enough, all those guys told me pretty quick off the bat that we're okay.
Yeah.
People have time in their home when they're with their kids, and they're cracking into 401ks because they're gonna, they're trying to be safe. They're trying to do this, whatever it was, And I was pleasantly surprised and relieved to hear that everyone sold out of all their gear because pandemic or not, they were still going up to the mountains. So I was afraid that everyone, like, we locked down here. We locked down because that's what we were asked to do.
Yeah.
Right? So when we locked down, it's like I just assumed that everyone else was in either dire straits or whatever you want to call it. That just wasn't necessarily the case, and so that was a relief for me. A year later, as things sort of shake out now, and it's the jury's still out on a lot of this stuff. It's like, you guys, I try to diversify my world because I couldn't be down on the beach. I tried to get away from that. Listen, there's an industry for this stuff up here in Portland. It's a lot less.
Yeah.
We knew all these guys from Soul Tech and all the Etnies and all that cool stuff. There's
all of it's down here, or
mountain of that shit, right? I mean, we knew those guys enough to go get shoes. Listen, the first time you are hooked up and some guy goes, Draplin, let me get you some stuff, my mind was fucking blown.
Yeah.
Because 1 year before that, and we were buying that stuff as kids growing up, but 1 year before that, I was at a mall in Minneapolis getting a pair of Vans. I wasn't calling some guy at Vans, right? It was real disorienting. I would find myself like saying thank you to these guys like 52 times because you just gave me something I don't have to go buy, and now I have more money left over from my shit paycheck. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because other people started to expect it. You get to know these people. Hook me up, bro. So I got to experience it just enough, and then I got my ass out of there and got up to Portland, where it was a little more my speed, crusty, But I got to take it. I met some heroes. I got to work for a bunch of brands I liked. About a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, a guy hit me up from the Stereo brand, skateboards.
Mm-hmm.
And I, kind of told him, I said, I'm glad you're a fan of my stuff, man, but I don't know if I should work on this because I didn't grow up in that world. There's got to be a kid who is, I remember Stereo skateboards. You guys might not even remember that. That's 90s. But it was like, are you sure you want me to work on this shit? Wouldn't you go after some skateboarding person? Well, that's when I saw that my name caught up with myself in a weird way, to where it was like, he was just a fan of my stuff. He'd got the book, got the stuff, got the thing. It's all good stuff. Yeah. It was like, oh man, like I'm still that kid who has a delineation between the two. Of course I grew up loving, skateboarding and snowboarding, but I just knew pretty clearly that those they're very factionalized, you can't really dip over into that stuff. They're sniffing you out, like they ought to be. And that's why, and I know this is going to sound crazy now, but in all honesty, I have turned down certain jobs because it's just not appropriate for me to be doing them. Like, who wants some 40-year-old piece of shit working on something for 20-year-olds? See what I'm saying? Like, or how about this? Working on a snowboarding project when I don't even go up to the hill anymore. That's not the coolest thing in the world.
I get that.
Right?
I understand that.
So I mean, I to this day still, there were jobs that came a couple different ways in the last couple of years where I would just be like, you guys know I'm not the right guy for that. You know I'm not the right guy. You should get some young kid. I'm okay with that because the confidence I'm going to have other work comes in other ways. But I was okay with saying that, and I got to tell you, that is some surreal shit because I fought hard to get myself accepted into some of that world, and then to kind of say I might not be the right guy for it was real weird.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all this stuff, it's like, man, I'm glad you got to work in that stuff and get a little taste. If you still work on it, cool. Keep doing it, If you're just done because you're just done, well then, get out there and sink or swim like the rest of us,
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the most profitable space, and I learned that early. And what I found is a big love for branding and identity and still having the ability to actually make a living out of it, because I don't think that the activewear industry is exactly, at least when it just comes to making t-shirt designs for a living.
Well, you got to be an owner. You got to be an owner of that stuff. And then that is very fleeting too. That shit's going to come and go hot and fast, whatever.
Yeah. But just like you said about how you still need to make projects that you're stoked on and that you're happy about. And
100%.
My thing is that I want my artwork to be seen. I've always had, and t-shirts have always been that outlet. Like if I get to go somewhere and see someone wearing a shirt I made and they don't know who I am and I don't know who they are, but they're wearing my artwork.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things that I think that there
Just
is.
Make sure they pay you for it.
Of course.
Right.
At Element, I was 14 years old, and I ended up getting a shirt into their seasonal line, and they blew that out.
Damn, man, I didn't know that.
Every single venue that they had, and to know, and
you were 14 when that happened.
Yeah, I was young,
dude. That's fucking crazy.
I ended up getting 3 of my graphics into their lines.
Remember, that's a very it's a very competitive thing. It's not. And then,
I got paid $400 per graphic.
But when you're 14, that's a lot of cash.
That's the most money I've seen. The rest of the internship wasn't paid. So
we used to bring kids in and work at the mag with us, which was pretty cool, and young little rats, and it was awesome. Remember, get in where you can, and do that work, and do it. Be a good citizen. Do it ferociously for these guys, and if it pays good, it pays good. Remember, it's not like you're working on, I don't know, Q-tips or something. Nothing wrong. I use Q-tips to clean up gnarly shit out of it.
Right before recording
logo or something, I'd be stoked.
Well, what I'm saying? How about this? Some energy drink or some bullshit.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Well, you're working on skateboard and stuff.
Yeah.
So
you gotta be happy about it.
It's so cool, man. And that's such a rare thing, and did you have access because your dad knew a lot of those old guys, or?
Initially, yeah. It was my dad had worked with someone way back when, coincidentally had reconnected, and then I started chatting with him and helped me out. That's how that's how it usually works when it comes to that sort of industry. You get your foot in the door to get it.
That's no different than any other situation.
For sure.
That can be frustrating when you're a young kid who's excited to just, listen, we had people off that just, straight up, whatever you want to call it, like they weren't from that world, and it was just purely based on like, all right, this guy's got some cool stuff, whatever you want to call it, and we had to be really good about that stuff. Listen, that's a great privilege, and it sounds like you did it, and that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's awesome. Some dads didn't work for gotcha. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I usually, at least now, have stayed away from talking about my dad or whatever, because you want to make it on your own. You don't want to.
Yeah. Listen, like I said, that could be a great honor for your dad too, to be like, yeah, man, I got to have my kid around, or I
That's
put him in
awesome.
the hands of some of my buddies, and they took good care. And he wasn't working at In-N-Out, which is probably a pretty good wage. I would be the size of this room if I worked at In-N-Out, by the way. Not be good.
Oh, dude, when I worked at the antique store,
Square Aaron Draplin with a little head, one hand touching the mouse.
yeah, dude, when I worked at the antique store and having that diner next door to it, fattest I ever was up until this point in my life, because right now I am the fattest I've ever been. But when I worked at that antique store, I got 50% off burgers, and for lunch I had that 4x4 with bacon, baby, and and I packed on weight.
Well, for the winter, you gotta keep it.
Yeah, but then when I didn't have that job and I had a barista job, I lost about 175 pounds in about a year, and then I started doing graphic design, and I sit all day, and it's
your ass. It's all going to shit. Well,
my ass is sweaty right now.
This is. Tell me more. This is the plight of the rotund. And the industry, and you just, I was just telling my girl, like, she's like, "Are you gonna ride the bike tonight?" And it's just like, I'm gonna try to ride the bike for a half hour and get my, whatever calories in.
Yeah.
It just sucks. It just sucks so bad. But that's kind of what it calls for. This isn't. There isn't. It's non-negotiable.
Yep.
No, this isn't working any other way. And with us being kind of locked down like we are, you got to go get that little sweat going some which way. It's good for you. It's good for the, it's good for your heart. It's good for your stuff. Otherwise, you sit on your ass all day and click stuff, and the paycheck shows up through PayPal or whatever you want to call it. You just got to be real careful with that stuff.
Oh yeah. I usually walk my dog, but it's too hot, so I've just been trying to. I have a standing desk, so like I'll just push the button, it'll lift up. I'll try to stay standing it for a little bit a day and stuff. But yeah, I've tried to be a little bit more active just on my own, because I've got to nip it in the butt early now. But that's more of being graphic designers. You're at a desk. There's no other option. It's not like it's a hollow projection and you're pulling shit and doing what have you.
Treadmill with like an iPad at the front of it where you're like drawing. Maybe that's up our alley.
iPad, you can only do so much. I don't care what people say. Like, I do all my design work from Procreate or all this stuff. It's like bullshit. You have to go over into these other design programs on your desktop. You got to build something that's gonna not just be stuck in the cloud or some shit. So
stuck in the cloud. That's the theme. That's the theme right now. Stuck in the cloud. Yeah. Well, I use that cloud as ferocious as I can, you guys. That's some good stuff there. I try, but it's. I didn't have that when I was your age. I had the hard drives and kind of bony things like that, right?
I have hard drives. I do have some stuff on the cloud, but I have a time machine backup that saves my computer, saves my saves my whole
those
system.
are modern amenities in this industry that are so incredible, because man, that's just not the same stuff that a lot of us had or whatever. I'm not necessarily, just the idea is when you get that thing, it lands in your lap, you got to learn how to really utilize it and get with it, and then embrace it, and then you're shaving time off. Otherwise, I'm a dinosaur. I'm sticking with old things. One of the things when you get involved with these Adobe guys, they start pushing stuff on you, and they don't want it's like, why even use a mouse when you can just use your hand on an iPad? I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I click the way I do, and I do what I do, and that's all it needs to happen.
I go from iPad to a desktop, but I have to use a mouse for the Pentool, man.
I use my iPad to sketch. Laying there watching documentaries and stuff. It's just another tool of how to get something quickly built into something. But well, why don't we wrap this thing up, because I got to get in there for some supper.
Let's do a
speed round here. Man. Do a speed round.
Yep. Speed round. Go, Cole.
No, you got it. Go for it.
Speed round. So as most of your followers know and all that stuff, you sell these nifty little watches. How many have you sold so far, and how did your rinky website take it with all those orders selling out, because you sold out like a motherfucker, man. You put out 4 different ones, and I had to wait to the 3rd round to get one.
Well, before I go and celebrate the grand success of this,
Yes.
it needs to be addressed as like, you guys, I really try to keep my prices fair. 30 bucks for a poster, and we're talking screen printed, nice, they're flat, you get edges on them, everything. You pull out all the stops. But I don't try to pretend that I'm bigger than what it should be.
For sure.
I pride myself on that, right? So when that thing landed in my lap, this chance to go make this watch, I was instantly afraid that if something was $200 on my site, that would be a little off brand.
Yeah.
And that scared me, because it was like, damn, I don't want it to be this thing that, like, after years of having $8 patches and $3 stickers and stuff or whatever, that there's some of this big overly elevated doodad, because it's not me. So that's why the first round, I think I got 250, really trying to mitigate and say, there's no way I'm going to sell all these.
Yeah.
But I'll get 250. Maybe I'll sell 50, get a little bit of money back towards what I paid. They were gone in 12 minutes or something.
Yeah, I remember.
And I didn't even hype it up or tease anybody and say, on this date, this drops, none of that language, none of that stuff, I just put them up and said, man, I got to make something so cool.
Yep.
Here they are, right. Okay. So, and by the way, thanks for getting one.
Yeah, no problem. My girlfriend actually got it for me for Christmas. So I was like,
just a breath of fresh air.
She tried to be sneaky, but she wasn't.
I don't know if she wears glasses, but if she ever does actually get her vision checked, she may actually see you. Don't let her do that, because
I know.
things are going to change after that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's a little pro tip. But like somebody just wakes up, she's, oh my God, that's what you look like?
We just got our eyes checked together about a month ago, and her attitude has changed. So she probably noticed.
Well, yeah, she's finally getting to see it. So,
yep.
You go into it really cautiously.
Yeah.
The last one was 800. Now, what that means, I got to cough up a lot of scratch. You can do numbers on that. What I sell them for, cut it all in half. Okay. It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, they're not $20, people.
I just counted today, and we're down to about 100. So this was 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Good. I don't want it to be a world in this little universe of my backyard where they're just instantly gone.
Yeah.
I want a kid to go in there and be like, oh, I get a kick-ass watch for $90, DDC all over it and cool packaging.
Yep.
$90, not 900, not 180, not some uncomfortable number. By the way, you go out to Target, $20 less, you get a kick-ass watch at Target from Timex. I love that. Okay.
Sure.
So
I will say the packaging is impressive.
Oh,
I save everything that I keep shit too, but
that's a big part of the design. It's a big part of the.
I looked at every little detail of that goddamn box.
Yeah,
because I was like studying it.
Well, you have to understand, when they gave me those samples and said, "Here's what Carhartt did," and Carhartt put a on the cover. That's it. Fuck this. I'm gonna go on. Can I do stuff on you? There's stuff printed on the inside that you have to unwrap to find. It's weird, but because they give you a template and then you go nuts and you put little Easter eggs and little things. Okay. So to answer your question, it was 800 plus 600 plus 4. It's right around 2,000 watches, I think, is what.
Well done, man.
Over a course of about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
I'll do my one speed round question, and then we'll let you go. And first, I want to thank you for your time, and thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for being a pal.
A dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of my question starts at as a thank you, because I mean, for so many, you get into graphic design and you almost can't even maneuver through graphic design without knowing your name at this point. And I was definitely
all according to plan.
The question I really had was if you had one piece of advice for someone starting out in design, but you actually hit on multiple parts of that.
I mean, what didn't I talk about that? And
during,
that just foray and the adventure through the forest of bullshit I just said. I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, the real thing is just thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and to be inspired by your art.
I know I broke your hearts last weekend because I was embroiled in too much.
All good, stuff. Man.
Let me get a word in here. Let me get a word in. Look me in the eye, you people.
Yep.
If you voted for Trump, you're dead to me.
Well, I'm still living. So.
That's just a fun little icebreaker right there. I joined the Young Republicans League of Dingleberry, California. You're an asshole.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. Okay. Well, you guys,
Aaron,
we'll have some sad little.
For sure.
You enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
See you around.
Yes.
Do some horrible things with that dog. Oh, that little dog.
I know, right?
Just give him little smooches. I used to let Gary go all the way in the back, like a mosquito proboscis.
Herman likes to lick my earlobe, and I'm just
out of the mouth. That little thing coming out of the mouth. He'd go all the way down the throat, and clean. And I just would allow him to.
Yeah.
Because it was just policy. And he gagged me with that little thing because he didn't. He had all these tricks. I put a little trick on my tongue and go. And he'd go and dig for it. People would be laughing and shit. It was gross. You ever smell a dog's breath? It's bad. And then my breath, it's gross. I'll leave you guys with that.
All right. Aaron, thank you so much for being a pal.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being a pal.
Be around, guys. All right. Stay young, stay cool, stay curious.
Peace, Aaron.
Okay, you guys. All right. We'll see you at Aaron Plates. See ya.
Thanks for hopping on with us, man. I appreciate it.
I'm clicking the leave button. Otherwise, this is going to go 5 hours. I'm clicking it right now. And by the way, the answer to life, the answer to get the $100,000 DDC scholarship is.